Thank you very much. Mayor, how are you? Good afternoon, and welcome to the TDC meeting of June 24th, 2024. Do we have a quorum?
Joanna can do the roll if you'd like, sir.
No, if you say we have a quorum, that's fine with me.
Okay.
I've got to get these glasses right here. All right. Are there anybody that has spoken to someone in regards to an agenda item that may be a conflict? We got anything, Tom? You?
No, sir.
Okay, Andrea?
No.
Alex?
No.
John? Delish? Mayor?
Negative, sir.
Wayne?
Nope.
Peter?
No, sir.
Me? No. Okay, we're good. Director's report, Peter Kranis.
Sir.
Wait a second, I got to do the approval of the minutes.
Yes, sir.
Can I have a motion to approve the Tourist Development Council minutes of May 22nd, 2024? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Tom Hermanson, seconded by Andrea Young. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
Sir, with your permission, can I switch my time with the Beach Committee report, as we have a number of people here that we're going to do short presentations to the TDC, and I'd like to allow them to go ahead and go first so they don't have to stay for the full meeting, if that's all right, sir?
That is fine, sir.
Okay, we're going to start, we had a beach committee meeting. Julie will be here, she's running a little late, but we had a beach committee meeting last week. As the TDC had requested at its last meeting in May, they asked that both KBB and the City of Cocoa Beach, who both had funding requests for cleanup programs, come to the beach committee and make their presentation. They did that. The committee did make a recommendation, which we'll get into after their presentations, but thought we would allow John Nico with KBB to go first and share his request for funds, and then we'll have the City of Cocoa Beach go second. So John, if you could come up there.
We'll just make sure. Very good. Okay. Okay. Well, let me just raise this up here. There you go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Nico. I'm the Executive Director of Keep Brevard Beautiful. And I'm also here today with Deb Harmon. She's our Chair and Board of Directors. And after this presentation, if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them.
John, if you just hold on for a second, I do have a disclosure to make. I did have lunch with Deb and John yesterday and talked in general in regards to what the contract was, but made no decision at the time and just was there for information. My brain's slipping. I have Bidenitis. Okay. All right, go ahead, John.
Very good. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here today and to make a proposal to continue our partnership with the TDC and Brevard County in order to keep the contract to clean up these causeways. This contract is very important to Brevard County in order to keep the causeways, our roadways, and our rivers clean. For those of you who don't know about Keep Brevard Beautiful, please allow me to give you a brief introduction. Together, our staff and volunteers have been making experiences more beautiful for residents and visitors alike since 1982. This year, we once again received the Presidential Award from Keep America Beautiful, making us not just an asset to our community, but also a standout affiliate nationally and in the state of Florida. To accomplish our mission, we remove litter through paid contracts like the one we're here today discussing, and we also organize volunteer cleanups like the ones you see in this slide. We have a large breadth of community outreach and service, but we also implement educational programs throughout Brevard County schools. The content is related to waste reduction and recycling, lagoon-friendly lawns, and community beautification. Every dollar we make through contracts, contributions, and sponsorships is reinvested in keeping Brevard beautiful, and in this presentation, I will explain how these funds amplify the value it brings to this contract if you should decide to keep Brevard beautiful as your partner. Now first, let's take a look at the proposed cleanup contract, scope, and coverage. These are the 4 causeways we currently maintain since 2019. They are considered primary gateways to our communities that run all the way north of Brevard County to the south, and these are the gateways visitors first see when they come here for vacation. The frequency and labor on each of these causeways varies, as you can see in this chart, but we perform weekly cleanups on all 4 causeways 52 weeks a year. This paid effort is also supplemented by 3 additional cleanups that are performed by volunteers that we organize annually on each of these causeways. These are the areas along each causeway targeted for cleanup, as you can see, because they are the most accessible, heavily used, and highly visible from the road and along the Indian River Lagoon. The graphs on this slide show the most current traffic counts from the Space Coast Transportation Organization in 2023. You can literally see millions of people crossing over these causeways that drive past these causeways every single year. These aerial photos show the targeted cleanup areas, but also how close it is to the Indian River Lagoon. It would be much more expensive for Brevard County to deal with all the trash and debris that KBB collects if we were not out there doing our job and cleaning up these waterways. That is the major mission of this contract, and Keep Brevard Beautiful is committed to doing that. As we all know, Brevard is growing along with the volume of people and our roadways. This graph shows the volume of traffic on all 4 causeways from 2019 to 2023. As you can see, traffic has increased on on 3 of the 4 causeways. In addition, we have strong growth drivers that make it feasible to believe we can expect these trends to continue going upward. For example, the space industry is expanding with over 120 launches planned in 2025. The number of cruise passengers embarking at Port Canaveral is projected to be 8 million passengers in 2025, which is up from 7.5 million of this year. We have 1,500 new hotels coming to the area, which increases our hotel stock 14% over the next 2 years. And if that isn't enough optimistic news, the UCF Institute of Economic Forecasting projects continued economic growth here in this area and across multiple sectors in the year ahead. At the TDC Beach Committee meeting last week, the group asked KBB to add the Pineda Causeway to the scope of this contract, which, as it turns out, is the most heavily traveled causeway of the 5. We visited the site and talked with the Waterway Warriors, another volunteer group that is active on the causeway so as not to duplicate our efforts. We have updated our proposal accordingly and to include the additional cleanup efforts that are not covered today. The images on this page show the areas of the Pineda Causeway targeted for cleanup and the frequency of cleanup and staffing that we propose. For the new contract overall, 5 causeways, we are proposing a total annual of $157,064 for the 5 causeways. We are also proposing the same term, which is a 3-year contract with 2 one-year extensions. By approving this contract for further consideration, you will sustain a partnership that is working, sustaining jobs, and making a difference in how our residents and visitors experience these gateways each and every day throughout Brevard County. According to Visit Florida and TDC, we have 2.34 billion reasons to make a good first impression. That's the estimated economic impact in 2022 from visitors to our area. While not all of these visitors arrive by car or via these roads, many of them do, creating the need to keep the causeways clean and beautiful. These photos show that the photos in this slide on the left show a KBB clean causeway. There in the middle photo, you can see an active causeway on any typical weekend or launch day. And then to the right is the kind of litter and debris that is left from these people on any given weekend. And you see this over and over every single weekend. How important is the topic of litter to visitors? The more litter on the beach, the less time visitors will spend. And according to a study in 2019, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, no one wants to see litter on their vacation. But litter is equally important to residents. Keep America Beautiful and various other real estate and home building groups estimate that litter in a community reduces the property values from 7 to 9%. No one wants litter in their neighborhoods either. We believe that Brevard County is committed to litter removal and is part of what creates desirability and positive impressions for both visitors and residents alike. There's real money in keeping Brevard beautiful, and our proposed annual cost is a small price to pay for the level of effort in return. With growth comes traffic, comes increased volumes of people and their trash near the roads and adjacent waterways. As you can see by these photos, what KBB removes from the causeways is really much more than litter and debris. It's trash, it's broken glass, furniture, tires, rusted metal, construction material, needles, fishing line, and many other items that could harm the health and safety of people and wildlife. These photos were taken over this year of Memorial Day and the 4th of July holiday. But on any given weekend, you can see the garbage collected just like this that we haul away from our rivers. If KBB were not doing our job, this would be the pollution that would pile up and potentially enter into the lagoon, transporting chemical pollutants, threatening aquatic wildlife, impacting our wildlife and aquatic wildlife, and harming water quality. And also, most importantly, marring the visitor and residents' experiences to all these precious resources. KBB is a value-added provider to Brevard County and visitors and taxpayers alike. Our value is in the numbers, and these shown from 2023. Each year, we collect an average of 900 tons of trash countywide. Of that 900 tons, 44 tons is collected through the TDC Causeway contract, and an extra 41 tons is collected through volunteerism. How do we do that? When you look at this slide, you can see last year we had over 306 cleanups. We had over 2,000 volunteers, and we had over 5,000 community service hours. All of this equates to dollars, and if you take the national hourly average, you get a savings to taxpayers of $176,000 just last year. That is the savings that taxpayers save and Brevard County. The picture below, you see those numbers, is the background from a Battle of the Causeways cleanup in February of this year. We had about 50 volunteers, and we collected over 2,156 pounds from along State Road 528 in just one morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to ask for you to vote yes and to continue KBB's partnership with Brevard County and TDC. We are asking an award of a 3-year contract to KBB at an annual cost of $157,064 for a cleanup of the 5 causeways. And this would also include an option of a 2-year extension for a total contract of 5 years. We want to do this in order to continue a first good impression and a positive experience for residents and visitors alike. We want to protect our Indian River Lagoon from litter and pollution, and we want to continue to derive extra benefit to our taxpayers from KBB's volunteer activities. I want to thank you all for your time and your attention. I turn this back over to you for any questions that you may have for myself or Deb. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Peter, do you have any thoughts on this? Can you make a recommendation or?
Yes, sir. Well, the recommendation did come out of committee, so I'll read that. And this will be in the form of a motion that'll be looking for a second. The Beach Improvement Committee recommended to the TDC funding for a 3-year contract with a 2-year extension to clean SR 406 Max Brewer Causeway, SR 528 Beachline Causeway, SR 518 O'Galley Causeway, Highway 192 Melbourne Causeway, and SR 404 Pineda Causeway. Funding amount is $157,064 annually. So that's in the form of a motion coming from the committee, sir. Looking for a second on that.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd like to, if I could, propose an amendment or clarification.
Absolutely.
I see, and maybe Peter can help us with the history or the current status, not history. You all know I know the history. The $1 million for Indian River Lagoon grant funding is currently
Suspended for 1 year.
Suspended for 1
with
year.
$150,000 awarded by the board for derelict vessel removal.
Right.
The other $850,000 will be put into the reserve account for next fiscal year.
Okay, well, since historically, KBB as well as the county Natural Resources, I believe, came before the board and requested grants out of that $1 million IRL, which included.
So there were
included
two
Causeway
pieces.
cleanup.
There were two pieces to the original KBB Causeway program. One was the beach committee recommended, then went to the TDC, and then the board ultimately approved a 5-year contract with them directly. It was a $60,000 contract. Then subsequently, After that, they came back and asked for, believe it was 40,000 in the amount of an IRL grant. So they got a total of 100, but 60 of it was a 5-year contract, and then one of them was just an IRL grant that they come back every year for.
Okay, great history. So with your, I would like to propose an amendment. I think this is it's a tremendous value. I'm actually surprised at its affordability, and I believe it's incredibly important, not only for the county, but also for the Indian River Lagoon. But I'd like to clarify the motion that if it passes, that these funds be designated as a portion of the $1 million IRL grant funding out of the Beach Committee. I say that because this is a multi-year contract, and should the Board of County Commissioners see fit to revive the $1 million a year, and you all know my position on this, that I'd like this to be a part of that allocation as opposed to in addition to that $1 million, should it come back. So my motion is, I'd second its approval with the amendment that it be considered a portion of the currently suspended $1 million IRL grant funding out of the Beach Committee Fund.
Thank you, Tom. Before, first of all, I guess, before we move on, I wanted to ask Alex, Alex, how will that function? Can we remove some of the money from the trust fund, or does the IRL basically just fund it and then it's repaid? How would that work?
So the IRL grant program is actually a subset of the beach fund. It's not actually part of Sorrel. So it's a separate TDT funded program, and the $1 million sits within the beach fund. So there's no need to take extra action because it's not sitting in a trust. It's in an operational fund.
I believe it would be at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners to open up that.
Yeah,
application.
ultimately, obviously,
Sure.
the TDC would make a recommendation, and then the board would have to ultimately
Exactly.
decide, but yes.
But there is a budgeted line item, so all I'm saying is take it out of that budgeted line item.
I got no issue with it. John, do you have a problem with this?
No, I think that gives us a little more security. If some
Okay.
things change down the road, we would have that earmarked for us in the following years.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the amendment to the motion?
I'll move.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Is there a second?
Second?
All right, there's a motion by Mayor Mendina and a second by Councilwoman Andrea Young. Is there any more discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, nay. The motion carries. So we're all set in regards to how it's going to be done, where it's going to be done, and now it goes to the county commission, I guess, what, August 3rd?
I believe I'll try to get it on that, whatever the next meeting is. I think it's the 6th is what I want to say, but
Just,
whenever the next one is.
okay,
Yes, sir.
try to make sure that there's not a bunch of crazy things going on that day.
I have no control over
Well,
that, sir.
I know. I'll look at the agenda because, oh my God, we have been having a zoo there lately. It's been awful.
Okay, sir.
I want to thank you all for your time. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
you're welcome.
So next up is the city of Cocoa Beach. They are seeking basically not a reinstatement. They had a 5-year contract with our office to clean the beaches in Cocoa Beach. And they're here to make a presentation and a request. This would be a brand-new contract, just like the KBB one, so.
You're up.
So my name is Scott Maxim. I'm a project manager with the city of Cocoa Beach. And we are here to request a new contract to clean up our beaches and State Route 520. And I think they're working on it. Awesome, there they are.
So while we're waiting for Julie's sake, the KBB program passed at the $57,064 for a 3-year contract with 2-year renewal, with those funds being designated to come out of the IRL grant program funds. If that gets reinstated, then those funds would have to come out of that first.
Great job. Committee thanks you.
Good job, Julie.
Thank you. Sorry for my tardiness.
Yeah. There it goes. Okay. So as I mentioned, we're requesting a new contract to help us for funding to clean up State Route 520 and the beaches. So according to the Space Coast Office of Tourism's FY 23 to 24 marketing plan, the top 5 visitation drivers to the Space Coast are beaches, space and launches, cruises, and nature and the outdoors. The Office of Tourism develops their core campaigns with these themes at the forefront. Cocoa Beach is prioritized for these marketing campaigns with 50% of advertising promoting Cocoa Beach alone. The Office of Tourism spends millions of dollars on advertising Cocoa Beach as far north as the Carolinas, drawing in more and more visitors every year. Tourism has been on a steady incline since 2020, and as a result, so have TDT revenues. This upward trend in tourism numbers on the Space Coast shows no signs of slowing down or stopping. When it comes to Cocoa Beach, we are the place to be on the Space Coast. This is why our relationship with Key Brevard Beautiful is so important. We want clean beaches to keep drawing visitors to our shores, but in order to do that, we need to be able to clean up after them when they leave. KBB plays a fundamental role in this process. They are on the beach 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Through daily beach cleanup, is that me? Through daily beach cleanup, volunteer events, and community service programs, they have been able to pull over 300 tons of trash off the beach in 2023 and close to 50 tons as of March this year. Under the current contract, Brevard County provides $170,000 annually to help fund KBB and our cleanup efforts. KBB cleans approximately 3.9 miles of beach between Harding Ave and First Street South. And I know this map is kind of small and far away, but that's supposed to be kind of 2 together, and it shows the length. Cleaning is focused on the beach area between the dunes and waterline, the east walk paths leading up to the public access crosswalks, and along Minuteman Causeway from the beach to Orlando Avenue, which is outlined in yellow. All trash pulled from the beach is deposited into dumpsters and trash bins on the street stub ends. From there, the city contracts Waste Management to pick up the trash and take it to the landfill. During the busier months from around February to September, Waste Management makes their rounds from 4th Street North to 4th Street South 3 times a week, and they hit all other beach stub ends twice a week. From September through February, when things are a little slower, Waste Management visits every beach stub end and beach access twice a week. On this route, there are 30 beach stub ends with roughly 60 96-gallon totes and 6 4 to 8 yard dumpsters. The frequency that Waste Management makes their rounds can fluctuate depending on how busy the beaches are and how much trash is generated. City pays Waste Management $21,292 monthly for this service. This is a fixed cost and does not increase or decrease with frequency changes. Another way of doing our part to keep the beaches clean, or rather encouraging others to do so, was by working with the Beach Bucket Foundation to have these stations installed throughout the city on beach stub ends and in our beach access parks. Currently, we have 1 station installed on every beach stub end from 1st Street South to 13th Street South, 1 station at Sidney Fisher Park, and 1 station at Allen Shepherd Park. Additionally, we have a part-time employee that is dedicated to cleaning up the beach stub ends and crosswalks. This employee works Thursday through Monday from 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. to ensure that these areas stay clean over the weekend. During the weekdays, we have a full-time employee that visits every beach stub end every day of the week to empty the dog waste stations and clean up these areas as well. Also included in KBB's scope of work is State Route 520. Key Brevard Beautiful cleans approximately 4 miles of the 520 causeway, removing trash all the way to the water's edge in an effort to significantly reduce litter along the road and in the IRL. Oops, okay. In 2023, the TPO recorded traffic counts on November 1st and 2nd that I could find. On November 1st, a total of 20,155 cars were recorded driving across the 520 Causeway. And on November
Scott, excuse me, what was that number?
20,155.
Okay, I thought you said 1,000. I was gonna say, that's off.
No,
Go ahead,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's 10,500 eastbound, 9,654 westbound. And on November 2nd, a total of 19,456 cars were recorded. That's 10,321 eastbound and 9,135 eastbound. These numbers were taken by the Space Coast Transportation Organization during the slower season for Cocoa Beach on a Wednesday and Thursday and still show a significant amount of traffic moving across State Route 520. In addition to the funds provided for the beach and State Route 520 cleanup, the county provides the city with $5,000 annually to assist with replacement of all-terrain beach vehicles for KBB. These gators last the maximum of 2 years on the beach and in the salt air before they need to be replaced. Our current replacement schedule of 1 gator in the odd years and 2 gators in the even years ensures that KBB staff receives a new beach vehicle every year and always keeps 2 in service. Cocoa Beach took on the full cost of beach vehicles in 2023 and 2024, and this was due to a personnel change in our finance department in 2022, and invoicing the county for that $5,000 just went overlooked. But this shows how much we've spent on beach vehicles for KBB. In 2019, the city's cost was $5,415. 2020, the city's cost was $16,600. In 2021, it was $6,175, and so on and so forth. Moving forward with the new contract, we would propose that the city continue to take on the full cost of beach vehicles for KBB as an increased contribution to beach cleanup on our part. As you can see, with over $350,000 spent on trash cleanup this year, the city plays its part and is dedicated to keeping our coast clean for locals, tourists, and wildlife alike. With millions being spent marketing Cocoa Beach and millions generated through the TDT every year, we hope that the county can continue to play its part as well. We are proposing a 5-year contract providing $260,120 annually to continue funding our partnership with KBB. Additionally, we are proposing that in the new contract, the city will continue to provide beach cleanup gators to KBB annually at no cost to the county, and that's with our replacement schedule of 1 in the odd years and 2 in the even years. And with that, I will conclude our presentation and take any questions, if any.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody have questions? I've got a few when we get a minute or two. Okay,
The
go ahead.
expired, I'm sorry.
No, Tom, go ahead.
The expiring contract was
175, yeah.
and the delta between 175 and 260 is increase in cost or a reduction in City of Cocoa Beach's contribution?
An increase in cost. This was a proposal provided to us by KBB for their services to clean the beaches in State Route 520.
Now, Scott, have you visited all the commissioners with this, or Wayne? Have you guys talked to the commissioners in regards to this issue?
No.
Okay. Any more discussion in regards to this? Peter, do you have a recommendation?
So, Julie, if you want me to read, I'll read the recommendation from the committee. Yeah, the recommendation from the Beach Improvement Committee is they are recommending funding once additional information had been provided, which they have. The city's contribution up to $260,120 annually for a 5-year contract to clean Cocoa Beach beachfront, SR 520 Causeway, and Minuteman Causeway from the beach to A1A. So that's the recommendation, and it would be a motion coming from the beach committee.
Tom?
I don't see the line item in the beach fund for the historical spend. Where's historically, which, has it
So
come
it
out of
doesn't, yeah,
1442?
it would just come from the general beach fund. It doesn't come from the IRL
Right.
portion of it. So usually
just-
it's under, whatever would be called contract services or whatever.
All right,
That category
So-
is labeled.
it's just kind of in the first line in 1442? In the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Beach projects and other contracts, yes.
All right, so question for KBB, just because I think it should be asked. The increase in cost from 175 to 260, we just approved the causeway cleanups, and there didn't seem to be that significant of a jump in cost from the expiring contract to the new one. What explains the increased cost here?
Well, I will, the contract that we had for the four causeways, there was an initial 60,000 and then an additional 40,000 that followed. That was a grant that ended, and that grant ended a year before we even stopped, we still continue the services today, but that grant money stopped about a year ago. So we were actually delivering the same level of service without getting paid those funds. So in actuality, the four causeway grant, that's about 100,000 in total, and then,
Okay.
and so that's the
We saw
realistic
some
number.
inflation.
Yes, and then with, as we all know, with the
60%.
cost of living and everything going on, that equates to about 260,000 in an increase for the same level of services. But we're also out there 365 days a year, and it's a program that's completely different than the causeways.
So I don't know anything about KBB's finances. Are these cost-plus contracts? Is it a municipal and state-funded organization that operates as a nonprofit?
Well, we're a nonprofit, and
Right.
we work through contracts, and mostly through government contracts,
Right.
municipalities.
Right.
But in addition, we have our whole volunteer program, which adds to those contracts
Sure.
and those additional services to it.
All right, well, that answers my questions.
Yeah, Deb, did you have something you want to add?
Yes, thank you. I'm Deb Harmon, and I don't think we answered Mr. Hermanson's question directly about the increased cost for the beach contract. In reality, the level of service that we're providing is not sustainable with the level of labor costs for fuel, materials, all that stuff is gone. We saw a bigger increase there because of the increased number of days that we're there actually on the beach. So it's based on the same labor rates, it's based on the same fuel costs, it's just a lot more of it, and therefore the increase looks bigger on the beach contract.
Very good. Well,
Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, if we, clean beaches, critical. People may or may not look out their windows driving across the causeways, but they certainly look around when they're sitting on the beach. And so absolutely critical to the mission of tourism to have clean beaches. And KBB has always done a great job at what they do. So I will second the motion coming out of the committee for this grant request.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Mr. Hermanson, would you take the chair for a minute, please? Thank you so much.
Taking the chair.
Okay, I'm in favor of this, but I'm also not an idealist, I'm a realist. And as a result, I want you to know that the political ramifications of that at this particular point in time are going to be very difficult to get before this board. So I am cautiously telling you, or suggesting to you, not telling you, that you need to meet with all these commissioners. I know Deb and John have met with them in regards to their contract, but I will guarantee you that if you go before that board, and I'm not being disrespectful to John Tobias, but this is just the way it is. This is a fact. And you have not talked to him, he will bury you with questions that you won't be able to answer, and it will be very, very difficult. Wayne, did you have some comments?
Well, I think he'll bury us either way, excuse my voice, but we felt this was the first step, and we have no problems approaching all of them.
Okay. I just,
But if it
I
fails
just don't want
here,
to, I
it
just
would've
don't want to
been-
have it passed out of this committee and when everybody's doing hard work, and then get to the commission without preparing you for what I think is going to happen, because as chairman of that commission, I know what's going to happen. Now, can we get it passed? I think we got a good shot at getting it passed, but I just want to, and you don't have to go see him if you don't want to. It's just that.
The
maybe you
opinions
just wanna
expressed
work
by
with the
any
three
member of
people
the
that you
public
want
during
to.
any period of public
But
comment do not
I'm
necessarily
asking you
reflect the views or opinions
as
of the Board
kindly
of
as
County
possible to
Commissioners
make
of
sure you
Brevard
have
County, Florida,
conversations with
Space
them, and if
Coast
you don't,
Government
that's up to you.
Television, or the program sponsor, and are
Okay.
solely those of the presenter. The
All right,
Board of
now
County
there's a motion
Commissioners
and
of
a
Brevard
second.
County,
Is there
Florida,
any
Space
discussion?
Coast
Any more
Government Television,
discussion? Wait,
and the
did you have
program
something else you wanted
sponsor
to say,
hereby
sir?
expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or
We
liability
discussed
for
at the
any
committee
defamatory
in
or
great
slanderous
length,
statements expressed by
You know,
any
my
member of
hotel's
the
in
public
Melbourne, it's
during
not on
any
a
such
beach,
period.
and many of the other representations on the committee, but we all agreed that it wouldn't take but a few weeks before the news was on the beach filming the result and the negative impact it would have on all of the tourism businesses. That's 72 miles long county. So we didn't take this lightly, and thank you so much for going back. This presentation is much more detailed than what they've originally presented to the committee, and I really appreciate all the work you did because you can really see the lines. But just taking that into consideration and sharing that when you meet with the commissioners, because everyone on the committee felt that would be detrimental to all the positive impacts we've made in tourism. This one thing could dramatically change, my associates' paychecks in a little hotel in Melbourne.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Peter, how will this be presented to the board? Is it just going to be presented on a spreadsheet with a discussion in regards to this issue? Or are we going to have KBB do one presentation and then Cocoa Beach do another presentation, which I think is very dangerous?
Yes, sir.
But
I think we'll write up an agenda item like we normally do. We'll include the presentations from here in that, as well as the costs. And then, I would recommend that all parties are at the meeting that date so they can answer any questions of the board. But I wouldn't, start with a presentation.
well, that's good. That's true, because what could happen is could come up on a consent agenda. And if it comes up on a consent agenda and nobody pulls it, then that's fine. And I'm not saying even if they pull it, you're not going to be able to, you'll be able to answer the questions
Right.
that I think are going to be positive for keeping the beaches clean and keep Brevard beautiful. But I just want to go with a full understanding and transparency of, oh my God, I know where this could possibly go, so just load your guns before you come to the commission meeting.
Political retribution is beyond our,
Well, I don't
Control.
like to think that way, but unfortunately I'm forced to. So, there's no retribution from my part. You know how I've stood from day one on it, and I'm gonna continue to be that way. So I'm an advocate and will help.
so in essence, we might end up with no lifeguards and dirty beaches.
Well, that's a possibility.
Yep.
And if you're certainly gonna see me lose my cool very, very bad at the meeting. I'll probably be carried out by the sheriffs myself this time. So
It's a shame with this too, because this is a system that's been working very well.
I could
And a lot of
not
parties involved
agree
in
with
it.
you more, and I pray that it just goes to the consent agenda and that we just go forward with it. John has spent some time with Commissioner Tobias. I think that he did a relatively good job in regards to it, but you just never know. And as I said, I'm not being disrespectful to the Commissioner Tobias, I just know it's gonna happen. So let's get it out of here. Maybe what we can have is Julie, if you can be at that meeting, that will help it for additional questions. I know Peter will be there.
Yes, sir.
So, we'll be prepared to do whatever we need to do to get it passed. So, any more discussion on this? Hearing no more discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Unanimously carried. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys.
Okay.
So, sir, if it's okay, we can go back up to the director's report, and I can begin that.
All right, Peter, go ahead, please.
Okay, for the For my report, I really wanted to just cover our budget for fiscal year 24-25, and that starts on page 12, and actually, I'll just have you go right to 13 in your packet. Can somebody hand me the clicker? Let me-
John's got it.
I'll try to coordinate my...
Wants to control everything. That's the way the guy is.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I just wanted to, I'll go through relatively quickly, but if there's anything you want to, stop and dig in on, happy to do that. This is a little chart that we've done for a number of years and just kind of shows where we've been. As you can see, going back all the way to 2015. Obviously, we had that little bump in 2020 with COVID, but we've had, a number of stellar years going into 21 all the way through last year. Right now we're projecting about a $26.2 million in TDT revenue this year, and I have proposed a $27 million budget for next fiscal year. So that's the target. I'm going to skip this slide. That was just kind of showing some history on different things. For our admin fund, so we are authorized by the state to pay for all our administrative costs. Those costs come out of each different fund that we manage. So each fund pays a equal percentage into our admin fees, and that funds our office and staffing and all of those items. You can see on page 16, compensation and benefits. Compensation is going up a little bit. Benefits has been going up significantly due to increased insurance costs, and that's as well as FRS costs, which is the state retirement system. And then you can see our operating and capital expenses actually dropped a little bit this year. That was mostly due to us paying for some additional computers this current fiscal year, so we don't need to do it next year, so that saved us a little bit in our next fiscal year. But the cost allocation that the county charges, they went through a new evaluation of the cost of the county. What county does is they evaluate all of the support costs that they provide every department, and then they allocate those proportionally. I think they'd been on a 6 or 7 year cycle, and they just reevaluated. Of course, with all the costs and staffing and other hard costs, hard goods, those costs went up significantly. So we are seeing an increase of about $100,000 coming from the county. That's out of our control, really. We are mandated that expense. Then we go into the beach fund. I'm going to go to the expense side of the beach fund. As we talked a little bit about previously, that first line item of $6.85 million is beach projects and other contracts. So the contract we just that was just supported comes out of here, as well as other projects that we have. We're finishing a major project in the South Beaches, about $2 million left in that, so that's in that. I had mentioned earlier that the board had deferred for 1 year IRL grants, but they did allocate $150,000 for derelict vessels, and then we pay for the natural resources function for managing all the beach projects. That's Mike McGarry and his team and all his expenses. We also, right now at least, own Lori Wilson Park. That's our park, and so we pay for the cleanup costs and regular maintenance costs for that. And then you can see we've added $8.85 million into the reserves for next year. The $8 million was coming out of funding from the prior year, and we had those funds, so we're putting those in reserve for future projects that we may need, and of course the tax collector gets a piece of that as well. Then on to page 19, capital facilities. Just going down to the bottom half where the expenses are. You can see I'm just going to go to the second line real quick, and I'll talk about the first line in a second, but the 9.88 million, those are projects that have previously been awarded. That includes the $5 million for the Brightline Station that just got awarded, so that's added to that. Then we do have some debt service. We keep some money in reserves and things like that. What's available for capital projects for this year's capital program is a little over 1.8 million. I believe what the board had authorized at the time when we first brought it to them 3 or 4 months ago, we didn't have the budget completely finalized. I think it was like 1.7 million. So there's a little bit more in there thanks to some, I believe, interest income and some carry forward funds, but not a whole lot in there. If that entire 1.8 got allocated on the next slide, you can see our 10-year projection. We'd only have about 300,000 or so for the following year. So the committee is right in the middle of scoring 3 different projects. When we get to the beach committee, when we get to the capital committee, we'll talk a little bit about those 3 projects. But for the next few years, that fund is going to be really kind of, depending on how much they award this year, it could be, pretty low. So whether we have capital grants next year or not will remain to be seen, but you can see the next couple of years we're going to be a little thin on available funds due to all the expenses. One of the things that's hitting is the aquarium starts next fiscal year. We still are finishing 4 more years of the U.S. law enforcement project, and then of course Brightline next year. So all of those things, doesn't leave a lot of capital funds remaining in that bucket. Those of you who've been around a while know not only do we operate a visitor information center, but we also provide a lot of information to guests when they're coming into town. They can call, they can email, they can use our website, they can use our apps. So all of those expenses kind of sit in that visitor information budget, and you can see below there about $83,000 in compensation and benefits, $438,000 in operating, and then we do 4 chamber grants of $25,000 each for the chambers, which they apply for every year. Cultural funds, this has been, an area of a lot of discussion in the past. We don't know exactly what the line of sight is. We just put some items in here as placeholders. The board has yet to give us direction on what we may do with that. As you recall, last year, about $935,000 was allocated out of this fund for lifeguards. So if that happens again, that takes up most of the expenses in this account that are available, or most of the funds in the account that are available. But we, in the past, we've had cultural grants, we've had major event grants, we've had other things that come out of this fund, BCA. Right now, all of those things are sort of in flux and on hold.
Peter, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me ask you a real quick question.
Yes, sir.
Did they ever take the $935,000 out of the
Yes, sir. This
account?
fiscal year, we transferred those funds to the lifeguard program. Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yep.
I don't know how that got by me. Go ahead.
So, yes, sir. Then the next fund is the zoo fund. This is a automatic allocation because it's by ordinance. So it's a 5% by ordinance, and it gets automatically transferred to the zoo. We have a stadium operating fund, which we keep about $350,000 and available for maintenance. And then we have a stadium capital fund that right now, going into next year, we'll have about $2.4 million available in that fund. So that fund is for any major capital expenses that happen at the stadium. Those are the funds available for that. And then last but not least, this will transition into my next presentation, but for advertising and promotions, the Fund 1441, we have revenue projected for next year of $13.385 million. And then we'll get into the details of how this is planned to be allocated, but about 12.4 million of that will be promotional. And then we have various other categories such as media, software, sports marketing, travel, expenses, membership, et cetera, that also equal to 13.385. So we'll get into the detail of that in my next presentation. Also, just as a reminder, last year there was an agreement that 50% of these funds would be split where District 2, which includes Cocoa Beach, would get 50% of the funding, and then the other 4 districts would get the other 50%. And that will stay the same this year. And then we also have a disaster fund if there is any need following a storm or any other kind of event where we might need to provide some messaging into the marketplace. We have about 1.35 million there for that. So that, Mr. Chair, is my report. I'm open for questions, and then I would be looking for the TDC to just provide a acceptance of the budget. This is going before the board as part of the county budget as well, so this will also go before the board, but for the TDC governance, they are supposed to provide an approval, if you will, of the budget as it's accepted.
Do I hear a motion for acceptance of the budget?
Mr. Chair, I have a
presented
question.
by Peter Kranis? Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
I have a question. Peter,
Yes, sir.
is that the balance for Sacrifice Park?
If you're looking at, is it 150,000, sir?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the remaining amount, but
So-
if the 100,000 isn't spent this year, then it'll just roll over and there'll be 250 available next year.
Copy
so,
that, just
yep.
double checking.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody have a motion?
Second?
Councilwoman Andrea Young has made a motion to accept the budget that was presented by Peter Kranis, seconded by Mayor Medina. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I guess
Next up will be the marketing committee report, sir. Keith unfortunately was unable to attend, so he is absent. I will give his report in his stead. We're going to switch over to the separate document at your place settings. I am also going to go through this very, very quickly. I'm not going to go through every slide, I promise, but I will stop. If there are questions, you can slow me down, and I'm happy to deep dive on anything in particular. If you see, the first few slides really replicate what I just covered, which was the budget. So the budgetary information that I just went through is in the very front portion of this section. And then from there, I'm going to just highlight the fact that we had a visitor study done this year, and we used a lot of that information to help inform the committee and some of the decisions that were made on different things that we felt were important to cover in the marketing plan. I believe we shared the visitor study with this group, but certainly very interesting piece of research that includes everything from the fact that 63% of people see ads or some kind of marketing messaging from us before they come, where they see, what are those sources. It goes into the household income and where people come from, the fact that about half fly, half drive, which really informs sort of our outreach and what markets we go into, because people are flying here in quite a large number. The fact that about half had children and half did not, that's very interesting from a content perspective, so it's something we need to think about as we're marketing, is not just marketing to families, because we do have an appeal to couples as well that are traveling without children, and then their visitor spending and all of that type of data. So a lot of good data in the visitor study. I'm not going to go through it in any length or detail, but it was very informational for the committee, and I think showed us a few things about our marketing plan and how we needed to support what we learned from that. Going to slide 17, I just wanted to highlight the fact that We are, we're a little bit stagnant in new room inventory this year. We had the International Palms go out of service about a year before, and that took 500 rooms out. We added probably close to that, so we're sort of flat this year, but we see that changing as we go into next fiscal, which is really going to probably fuel that $27 million budget with almost 1,000 new rooms coming online. So that's is interesting and important to note. And then we also have seen
Horrible news.
That being said, we'll move to vacation rentals. Vacation rentals seem to be sort of slowing down, if you will, in terms of the number of new vacation rentals that we're seeing in the marketplace. Somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 is what we think we're tracking on vacation rental units. But it is important to note that that's about a third of TDT is paid for with vacation rental tax. So something to keep an eye on there. In terms of strategic considerations, just some of the new things. One is we really wanted to create a plan that had a lot of flexibility in it. We felt very strongly with the major election happening this fall that we wanted to avoid that from a media perspective. So you'll see later on we're actually shifting some of the media away from that, so we're not running media right in the middle of the loudest noise. Then people are not going to be paying attention to our messaging so much. The other thing we felt was it was very important to use data-driven numbers when we're looking at results, and so we're really investing hard in programs that tell us exactly what bookings and what results are coming out of the media that we're purchasing. So we've got a number of software tools that are helping us with that. Also, we did launch a new website this year, and we're going to fine-tune that, and that has a lot of the tools in it that were listed in the strategic considerations, such as itinerary planning and things like that. We also hosted a sales action team committee meeting where we got a lot of feedback on the meetings and convention market. There was a feeling that we needed to do more in that market, and you'll see that is also in the plan. On the creative, as many of you are well aware, we added a lot of Cocoa Beach creative as a result of the 50%. As you go through the creative section, I'm just going to quickly page through it. You'll see a lot of billboards. So Kelly Slater did a board for us. We were pretty excited about that. That was very neat. We obviously have a lot of billboards up on 95 and the Turnpike and I-75, and actually going up into Georgia right now, mostly showing Cocoa Beach, but we also have Melbourne. We have boards for Melbourne, Titusville, and as well as Palm Bay. Then digitally, you see we have Cocoa Beach digital, but we also had digital for Melbourne, Titusville. There was some new creative that was done for Titusville, as well as Palm Bay. And then TV commercials as well, which I won't spend the time showing, but we'll let you know that we are working very closely with the Cocoa Beach folks to develop some new TV creative, and we're also going to be doing some new TV creative for the other districts as well. So we're going to have a pretty robust set of new creative going into next fiscal year. As far as the visitor themselves, we have been targeting the 100,000 plus segment, and that got borne out pretty well from the visitor study, which the average income was about 100,000. So we're targeting the right audience, and it's certainly families, but we're also aware that we need to be cognizant of the fact that about half the people travel without children. So we're going to develop some new creative for that. So I think there's some new creative development there. As far as the markets, obviously the Florida markets are super important to us, particularly Miami, Palm Beach, and Tampa, because they, when they come, they do stay overnight. Orlando is more of a day trip play. I think as we go into next year and look at the media buy, we may tamp down the Orlando market and try to bump up some of the other markets because we really want to try to get those overnight stays. That's really our focus. And then, of course, out of state, Atlanta, Charlotte, which have direct service, into Melbourne, New York, Boston, DC, Philly, Chicago are all important markets. Detroit is kind of at the outlier. If there is funding available, we might do some marketing in Detroit, but certainly Chicago is a big market as well. And then through airline partnerships or direct service relationships, we're looking at other secondary, what I call secondary markets, like Allentown, Pittsburgh, or Allegiant flies to, Sun Country flies to Minneapolis, and then Allegiant just announced Cincinnati. So that's a good market for us. It's in the top 20. So I think we'll be looking at some things in Cincinnati to try to support those direct service flights. And internationally, of course, UK, Canada, Europe is all important. We'll talk a little bit about that. This slide just kind of shows we work with a cellular device tracking tool, and it shows the origin markets where people are coming from. So we looked at all of 2023, and you can see as a share of the total, those that are highlighted are all markets that we would be looking at doing some kind of activity in, whether it be partnership marketing, co-ops, or direct, us spending funding there as well. I'm going to skip to the implementation section. This is kind of where the rubber meets the road. So you can see, as we go through the implementation section, this is where the budget is all listed. So if you added all the budget line items on these slides, it would add to the 13.385. Here is just an overview of the timing. We do activities that last all year long, like running billboards or signage at Orlando Airport or Facebook and Google ads. But then we have seasonal campaigns, and one of the big shifts is, as I mentioned, the fall campaign. We're really calling it fall-winter and shifting that to right after the election begins. So we will, right after November 5th or whatever that date is, we'll start marketing travel occurring between December and February. So that'll be a fall-winter focus. Then for spring break, then in February and March, we'll obviously be promoting spring break, and that runs through April. And then for summer campaign, we'll start that in May, and that'll run all the way through August, and really pick up, all of that summer travel. And then international, we usually start in November, and that runs through July. And then this is just some of the details. So you see about a little less than $2.5 million to be spent on the annual. And then the seasonal campaigns is where a bulk of those funds are spent, about $7 million, and they split out where fall, winter starts, at one level, and then it ramps up as we go through the bigger seasonal campaigns such as spring and summer, where obviously we're trying to really support those big campaigns and those big travel periods. And then just a couple of other slides just to finish up. We obviously have to fund our agency and the creative and all the time that they spend on our account. That's part of this production budget, but then we also fund all of the other creative and things that we need to do to have all the advertising ready and available. So that's part of that budget. It's 1.27. And then also any efforts that we have in terms of social and website are also covered under that. And then our PR firm, Butin, their contract is included in this, but this is also the cost for familiarization tours and bringing media into the marketplace, and we get a lot of lift out of those programs. This is a really good ROI part of the budget because we generate millions and millions of dollars in advertising equivalent. If we had to go out and buy that media, it would cost lots and lots of money, but the budget is a relatively low number, comparatively speaking. And then just to wrap up with a couple of additional things, we do have a co-op program, so we do some co-ops with some of our industry partners as well as local partners. This is also where some of the airline funding goes, so if we want to help Allegiant, for instance, in Cincinnati, we could pull some funds out of here to do that. So that's a $300,000. Sports is obviously a big piece. This part of the budget generates between 20 and 30,000 room nights. The change here is we've previously had a sports grant program, and right now, we're still waiting for the board to kind of opine on what to do with both sports and cultural grant programs. So what we're asking here is that we allocated $240,000 for events that reach a minimum of 200 room nights or more, could get up to $25,000 in marketing support. So this would just be support that we would provide them to help them either market themselves or perhaps go in and support an event that was generating, hundreds and hundreds of room nights. We might become a sponsor of that event or something to that effect. So all of the various, on these slides, all of the various partners are included here because we don't know who those partners might be, and we want to have the flexibility to be able to contract with whoever it might be. Another use of these funds is also we're seeing a lot more training occur here, so like rowing and lacrosse and soccer, a lot of those colleges up north bring those teams down here to train, and so we're going to look at how to help them with those programs as well. I mentioned international. We have representation in the UK and the European parts of the European Union, including Germany, Ireland, Scandinavia, and that contract is part of the $1 million, but we also have a relationship with TUI that brings over about 120,000 Brits every year. They're adding Ireland to that next year, so I think that's going to be a really good partnership. We usually spend about $300,000 with them, and they match that dollar for dollar with their marketing fund, so it's a big co-op program. We'll probably roll something out in the UK, Ireland, and then we actually are going to do some things in Germany with them as well. And then we have a campaign in Germany that's about $300,000, and then we also work a lot with Brand USA, which is the federal level, and Visa Florida, which is the state level. So we do a lot of co-ops with them. So a lot of those international programs are co-opted and leveraged, and for that $1 million, we probably get very close to a dollar for dollar match from these other partners that we work with. And then travel industry, this is not a big budget, but this is where our travel industry relations coordinator, Tom Bartosik, goes to lots of conferences and events and meets with a lot of tour operators and travel agents. We do a lot of familiarization tours for travel agencies that are coming down here and wanting to do ship inspections and things like that. We take the off-port portion of the familiarization tour and try to train them on what we have to offer. This is also where we got input from the sales action team that we needed to do a little bit more with the meetings market, so we're looking at doing some expansion of our website, as well as partnering with some organizations like CVent and MPI, Meeting Professionals International, that have programs where we can market our meetings capability. And then just to wrap up, of course, we have to have funding for research. We want to make sure we measure all these funds that we're spending. So all of the STR and vacation rental data, Datafy, which is our cellular device tracking, and working with our research partner, Downs and St. Germain, who did the visitor study. We've got a couple of other additional studies going for next year. So all of those come out of this fund. And then to wrap up, that last amount of money actually will subtotal to the 13.385. Our travel did not go up this year. It's 32,000, same as last year. Memberships, 30,000, same as last year. And then the tax collector allocation. So I am open for questions. That was very quick, I know. I'm happy to deep dive on any particular items. And then other than that, Mr. Chair, I'd be looking for TDC support to bring this forward to the Board of County Commissioners for approval.
Well done, Mr. Grandis.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody have any questions? Hearing no questions, let's go to committee reports. Marketing reports
sir.
already been done?
This was a marketing. I'm looking
Right.
for
Cultural committee?
I'm looking for a support from the TDC to bring this to the board, so I would need
Is there
a motion.
please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Tom Hermanson, seconded by Julie. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank
Moving
you.
Forward. Okay, cultural committee.
There's no report. Our next meeting is August 22nd, we're hoping for, but we have nothing other than that.
I think we'll
Nothing to report.
may know after, at that meeting, where all of this stuff stands with budget and things of that nature. So I'm hoping we'll get that cleared up. Capital facilities.
Tom was on the call, but I'll just highlight the fact that there were 3 capital projects that came and presented to the last committee meeting. Those presentations are in your packet. They have all submitted their applications, and the committee is now in the midst of reviewing those. I don't know, Tom, if you had any comments on that?
We watched applications like culture and one other committee that I'm forgetting right now. With the Brightline request and passage, there really isn't all that much money left in the next, currently in the reserves, 1.7 million. And I think the grant requests totaled, what was it, 37 million? Or
Something like that. Yeah, it was
Something like
a
that.
large number, yes.
None of them, you know, I'll just be honest, none of them are going to move the needle tremendously with respect to heads and beds and tourism. They're all good projects, but large dollar amounts with, let's just say, not transformative with respect to impact on tourism. The most important thing is that the funds, we have now depleted our reserves in order to consider them. So I believe the committee will rate them on their merits, and that may just be a placeholder for potentially future consideration after reserves are built back up. Yeah, I think that's all there is to be said. There's no money.
Yeah, the actual amount, I think it was, just to be fair, it was like 600 to 700,000 for the lighthouse. 7.5 million was asked for by Titusville Playhouse, and then there was a swimming pool project. I believe they were asking for 3. I think it was 3 million. Yeah, 3 million. So
$3 million for a privately owned pool on US 1.
right.
Great mission, but, you know, dollars request versus tourism impact probably is not going to get over the hurdle. And then a really grandiose vision for a arts center in Titusville.
I think it's a $75 million total project.
$5 million project in downtown. We're talking Orlando caliber performing arts center
Wow.
here. And they were looking for seed money there, but so we'll the committee will rank those proposals, and we'll present the rankings, and there's not going to be much action after that because there aren't funds to meet the requests.
Okay, are you finished, sir?
Yes.
Okay, sports committee.
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay.
Next meeting is October 24th.
All right, on board reports, other business, TDC members. I have a quick little report. I will be heading to Washington on Sunday with a group of about 12 high-profile people in the community to meet with Pete Buttigieg and White House staff and Department of Transportation Senators Rubio, Senator Scott, Congressman Posey, and our mission is to lobby them for the additional $45 million from a Christie fund, a Christie grant that we need to get the Bright House Station going. So it's a different time right now. I'm not certain how they're going to respond, but my guess is that we'll get a favorable response. I know that Senator Rubio and Senator Scott will help us, and Congressman Posey probably will help us. We're also going to lobby Mike Herodopoulos in the event that he's the new congressman. But we'll be there, and I'll give you a report on what happens as soon as I find out. So,
Mr. Chair?
Is the decision before or after the elections?
well, that's a very interesting question. Here's what normally happens politically. With the Democratic cabinet and the Democratic people being secretaries of these boards, normally what happens is if they see something that's coming before a county or a city that's going to benefit them politically before the election comes into play, they normally pass it and bring down a check. And the reason they do that is to be able to make a big announcement and get votes. That's what's my experience has happened over 55 years in politics, so I'm guessing that it would happen before the election, only because it's gonna be a political situation. That's something that normally moves people, money. So I certainly think it would move this committee and a lot of the voters in the area, so we'll see.
Especially since Brevard County is a swing county, you know, so close between Democrats and Republicans.
Well, maybe
Was it
this
last year,
election's
like
gonna be
Trump
so
took it by like
close that
30 points or
if
something?
they got 10 extra people, they could win. Who knows?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
I don't know, but
Best
my
of
guess
luck.
is it would happen before the election.
Can you, I've never heard of the Christie Fund. Is that part of the infrastructure bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, respectfully, yes, you could get a lot more votes, and if you could just bring an extra check for that 50 million we need for Ellis Road, you could make a bigger announcement and get more votes.
We're working on it.
It's just a little-
Very diligently, and we're very, very close.
Good, thank you.
Julie?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Alex, you got something? Andrea, anything more?
No, that's it, thank you.
Wayne?
No, thank you.
Mayor?
I do, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. On August 6th, just want to let all our folks know out there that Congressman Posey is hosting a human trafficking symposium. So I encourage everyone to RSVP at 632-1776. You'll hear from professionals. You'll hear from a survivor on how we can continue to combat human trafficking. It'll be held at Eastern Florida State College. Thank you.
Okay. Delish?
I'm good.
Okay, well, welcome, my friend. We were very saddened by Samir, deep in our hearts, so we appreciate you being here. Alex, you got anything you want to talk about?
Yes, sir.
John?
No, I'll talk to Julie. I just wanted to talk to her about the Rose Awards coming up August 21st. So if you have some really great people in your organization,
All right.
nominate them.
Okay. Laura? Nothing. All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.